The following episode of the Grown-Ass Woman's Guide was recorded live in partnership with Revel, the official event and community partner of the Grown-Ass Woman's Guide. Nina Lorez Collins is the CCO at Revel and also the host of Raging Gracefully, the podcast. Each month, Nina and I come together for a very special episode we call Grown-Ass Guidance, a Q&A event. We take live and pre-submitted questions from the Revel community on topics ranging from transitions and reinvention to sex and relationships, money, career, friendship, menopause. Nothing is off limits. To participate in the monthly events, check out the show notes. And if you'd like to submit an anonymous question in advance, there's a link to do that as well. Thanks for listening. I'm Jackie MacDougall, and this is the Grown-Ass Woman's Guide. Hey, Grown-Ass Woman's Guide listener. Did you know that the official Grown-Ass Woman's Guide YouTube channel is up and running? Be sure to head over and hit subscribe. Not only can you find the video version of the podcast, but there will be some special features over there you won't want to miss. I would love to connect with you there. So visit our YouTube channel, hit subscribe, and comment letting me know what you think. See you on YouTube. Welcome to the first of many Grown-Ass Guidance specials. Please note, anything we recommend in this episode, you can absolutely find a link in the show notes, even with a special discount. So be sure to check that out if you're interested. And now, a little intro from your hosts.
So my name is Nina Collins. I'm 52. I live in Brooklyn. I was born and raised in New York. I went to Barnard, an all-women's college. My background is in book publishing. I started a community called What Would Virginia Woolf Do, which is a dark joke because Virginia Woolf is a famous feminist writer who killed herself in her 50s. And when I was 46 and feeling the beginnings of perimenopause and feeling worried about being irrelevant and unsexy, and my kids were leaving and my third-ish marriage was failing, I created this group called What Would Virginia Woolf Do as a kind of like joke, like should we all just walk into the river with stones in our pockets? And that became a community that eventually became called The Wolfer and eventually merged, was sold to Revel, this new platform where we are. I'm very energized by community and by women's stories and women's lives. I only read books by women. I've always been really interested in older women since I was young. I was very close to two of my two grandmothers. My mother was a kind of famous Black writer, filmmaker named Kathleen Collins. And I have 4 kids who are all in their 20s. So I'm an empty nester. And I think that's it about me. I'm the chief creative officer at Revel. So I do programming and content and really, really love it. Love being part of a startup. I'm having kind of like a career renaissance in my 50s. Totally new career. Never thought I would work in like marketing and partnerships. I think it's kind of funny. Oh, and I'm also the board chair of the Brooklyn Public Library. So what I should say, I know a lot about certain things that you can ask me. I know a lot about sex. I've become a little bit of a middle-aged sexpert just because I've worked with all these women in these communities. I know a lot about divorce because I've been divorced a bunch. I know a lot about raising teenagers because I had 4 and I've had stepchildren, and I always say about parenting, I've almost experienced everything. I feel like I've not had a miscarriage, but I have had kids arrested, and I've dealt with a lot. I've dealt with all the things. So I'm good on that subject. I'm pretty good on therapy in general because I've had a lot of therapy. I had like 10 years of almost 3 times a week therapy through my 40s, which I really needed. My mom died when I was young, and that was super traumatic. Yeah. So those are the things I think I'm really, really good on. But basically all things women, I think I'm pretty good on. Yeah. All right. What about you, Jackie?
Oh my goodness. So Jackie MacDougall, host of the Grown-Ass Woman's Guide. I grew up in Boston, as I mentioned, the 11th of 13 kids. So wow. I have 7 brothers and 5 sisters. I call myself a walking talk show because if a talk show was looking for a topic, they would just like, Jackie, what do you have this week? Because I have the BRCA gene. I don't know if you're familiar. My mom died when I was 3. So you and I have that, both of that, have that experience. I have a child with autism. I'm familiar with chronic diseases, with transgender challenges, parenting 3 teenage boys. Oh my gosh. So
Do you
many
have
other things.
do you have a transgender child?
I do have a transgender.
Okay, so
Yes,
that's a good
yes.
subject. Okay,
I did
great.
an episode quite a while ago about that. I don't talk too much about specifics, names, things like that, but in general. And I'm always happy to talk to other parents of transgender children because I think there's so much to learn and to ideas to share. I have been married for almost 20 years in a few months. And so I can definitely talk about the challenges of long-term marriages and especially when the kids have special needs and circumstances. Definitely talk about that. Big families. I was raised by a nun. My dad got remarried after my mother died of breast cancer. She adopted the first 11 of us. And so I have 2 half siblings. So that was interesting. So between the 2 of us, we have experienced a lot of life. My background is television, creating content for women. So I've been doing that professionally since my 20s. And I decided to shift away from working for others and creating content for women myself. So that's why Revel is such a great partner. That's why Nina is such a great partner. I love having events on Revel and attending events on Revel. And I can't wait to start doing some in person as well here in the LA area. And we have one coming up that everyone should.
Oh yeah, we're going to have a pot party. We're going to have a cannabis tea party in LA on April 16th. We've not created the event yet, but it's going to be really fun. I'm staying at a house in Los Feliz. A wolfer actually offered me, we're doing a house swap. She's coming to Brooklyn. I'm going to LA for 2 weeks and we're going to have a big pot party. It'll be really fun. So look out for that. We also have some questions already. Well, we have 3 questions already that we should get to. And then what we're hoping, I think we'll read out the questions and you guys should ask questions in the chat and ask anything. Nothing is off topic. I'm very comfortable talking about anal sex, which I don't do. Like literally we can talk about anything. Money. Oh, I'm also very good on money, financial subjects. I have a lot of experience. Like I've run 3 businesses. I divorced a hedge fund guy. I'm quite good with money. All right. Our first question is, I would like to ask for suggestions on how to build connections and make new friendships as a single 56-year-old woman who lives in a small town outside of Cleveland. The whole empty nest thing has been hard to navigate and I'm struggling with how to build a support network. Very apropos question for us.
Yes.
I would say that my number one advice for how to make connections and new friends is to be curious, to lean into your curiosity and to recognize your fear, like what's holding you back from being open. Because what I see a lot with women in our cohort who aren't finding partners or aren't finding friends, it's that they're understandably afraid. They've been burnt. They have triggers. They're nervous about being exposed. I think basically lean into your vulnerability. It's very Brene Brown. If you've never read Brene Brown or watched any of her videos, I highly, highly recommend her. BreneBrown. You probably all know who she is, but she has done all this incredible research on shame and vulnerability. And it really is a lot of those ideas are kind of the foundation for the wolfer. The idea is that we don't have anything to be ashamed of. Like if you don't have any friends or you feel lonely, you are not the only person who feels that way. Lots and lots and lots of people feel that way. And there are people out there who want to be your friend, and you have to kind of lean into like what interests you and go out there and, go on Meetup, go on Revel, create an event. Like if you really love crocheting cacti, create a crocheting cacti event and say to people like, who wants to join me? And that's how you're going to make friends. So you do have to kind of get a little bit outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, for sure. Somebody asked which book specifically by Brene Brown. Is there all of them? One of them?
You know what? I will Google that while we go on to the next question, and I will tell you. I will definitely answer that. She's really fabulous. What I really love about her is if you Google on YouTube Brene Brown and vulnerability, you'll get some really great TED Talks, and there are a couple animated videos that are also really wonderful. Because you're right, she has a lot of books. I think Imperfections, The Gift of Imperfection is a book I really like. I didn't like Dare to Lead that much.
Daring Greatly is another one, right?
Strong is good. Daring Greatly is good. Yeah, I'm looking at all of those. But honestly, what I would really recommend you start with is her TED Talks. They're excellent.
Awesome. One thing I want to add to your comment, which was so great, was I like to do this thing called a try period, where I write down like all the things I've wanted to try, a painting class, aerial yoga. There's a cliff in California that I've always wanted to hike down by the beach, things like that. And number one,
really, really good idea. I once did that in New York. I live in New York, and I once made a list of like all the weird things in New York that I've never done. And I kept it on my phone. And it's actually, I'm not trying to plug Revel here, but it actually is a really good way to use Revel. Like totally. If you want to go see more art, like I'm telling you, people will come. Create an art event in your neighborhood or your community. But yeah, figure out what you want, and don't try and let go of feelings of fear. I know that's obviously a lot easier said than done, but the thing is, everyone feels the same way. We're all the same underneath.
Well, so just understanding that you're going to feel fear, and know that fear is temporary. Like every feeling that we have that goes through our body is temporary. Every single one. So in your happiest moment, like you're not always going to feel that way. And so it's okay to be afraid, and know that you're going to walk into the painting class and you're going to have to say, hi, I'm here for this, or whatever it is that you want to do. And 10 minutes in, you'll be doing the activity. That's the beauty of activities. It kind of takes away that awkward, when you meet someone, they're like, oh, you want to go for a drink? It's like, they're so face to face and you got to come up with stuff. But when you're doing an activity, it's so much easier.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
That's a really good point. And someone asked, how many tries do you give it to decide if it's for you or not? That's an interesting question. So like if you're trying something new, listen to yourself. If you like it, do it. If you don't like it, don't do it.
Yeah. I think that there's so much pressure, right? That we're supposed to like, don't give up, don't quit. And we've shifted a little bit as women, where if you don't like it, if you're like, I've always wanted to do aerial yoga, and you do it and you're like, I'm actually bored, don't do it again. You've done it.
I completely agree. We're way too old to do shit we don't want to do. Do what you want.
Totally. And so I think do a running list of just shit you want to try. Yeah. And then just pick the easy ones first. That's what I always say, is pick the easy ones first. If it's like, I've always wanted to hike this one particular mountain, like you could do that today. So pick that one. If it's like, I want to go get my master's degree, hold off on that one. You know what?
And we should also start a thread in the community. Shit, I want to try. It's really good to make everyone just start thinking about it. I'm trying to think if there's something I really want to do right now. I've been so busy working lately, I can't think of anything, but feel free to write in the chat stuff you want to try, because it's a really good exercise. I love that, Jackie.
Totally.
All right. Another question is about thongs. Why do I feel so old and frumpy if I don't wear one, especially at the gym? I mean, seriously, it's not that comfortable, and I don't understand how basically every single woman at the gym is wearing one. All right. Well, I think this is a generational thing. I personally hate thongs. You couldn't pay me to wear a thong. Do you wear thongs, Jackie?
I wore thongs up until, I don't know. I think it was that I had some surgeries and I just had to buy something else for a while. And here's the thing. Back when I was in my 30s, thongs were really, for me, the only option because of the panty lines. But now they make better panties so that you don't have the lines. So why would I ever wear a thong?
Panty lines do not bother me. Stacey Meyer says she's team thong. Yeah, people are. I mean, obviously lots of people really like them. I actually ran this question by my team at Revel. Most of the women there are young and they love thongs. So I think it's just one of those, like, my first husband thought that panty lines were sexy. And like, I just don't care about panty lines. It just is not an issue.
I do. Well, that's because you have a small ass.
No, I do not have a small ass. In fact, someone I broke up with in my 40s, he was really bummed that I broke up with him. We were together for like 4 years, but this is hilarious. After I broke up with him, he sent me a text and he said, BTW, by the way, you have a fat ass.
Wait, that was his like anger?
It was his parting salvo.
Oh. Wow, 4 years with that guy, huh?
Well, he was actually a really nice guy. It was pretty funny, I thought. He was upset.
That's funny. But to go to her question, like, if you like a thong, you should totally wear a thong. But if you don't, life is way too short to be wearing something that is not comfortable because you think that's what you're supposed to be wearing. That's, like if the last 2 years has taught us anything, be comfortable and be happy with what you're doing, and F at anybody else who thinks otherwise. Right?
100%. And I can tell already this is going to be a theme for me and Jackie for our show. It's like, do whatever the fuck you want, right? Basically.
Yeah. We'll just play that. Play that back.
So to whoever wrote in, it was an anonymous question about thongs. Just don't feel bad about it. Also, frankly, this is another funny thing. I wonder about what you guys will say about this. I don't wear underwear at the gym. Like, I don't wear underwear with my exercise clothes. I think of them as like underwear themselves. I know. I've realized that's a little weird. I realize a lot of people wear underwear with their exercise clothes, but I don't really understand it because like you're sweating and you have to throw it in the washing machine anyway. So why wear underwear?
Well, I do because I think it's more protective, like because you're sweating there and stuff. I tend to get if I wear my exercise clothes too long, and even if it's like to stop off and have some coffee after with a friend or something, like shit goes bad. So
you'll get infection or something.
Yeah. So I need to actually wear underwear that like is made for that and not necessarily just have the workout clothes.
Really? You wear special gym underwear?
No, not special gym underwear, but they are cotton in that area. So that way there's like breathing and all that. Cause the workout pants, they don't breathe. And so I need a little something in there to help me out.
So interesting. Other people in the chat are saying that too. You have to have cotton next to your lady parts. Your lady parts don't breathe when you work out.
Team cotton up there.
This is not a problem for me. I don't know. I'm 52 years old. I have never worn underwear when I exercise. So go figure. I don't really know what to say.
So I want to grab a couple from here. So Laura says, I read that organic coconut oil is okay as a vaginal lubricant. True or false?
Totally true. This is something I have a lot of experience with. Thousands of women have talked about in the community about how great it is. Very occasionally, I think I've met one or two people who have said that they blame coconut oil for getting a bacterial infection. I've asked many gynecologists about it, and overwhelmingly they support it, that it's a good thing. And I can tell you also, people often ask me how you use it. So for those of you who are not familiar with the coconut oil thing, basically I use it 2 or 3 times a day. Pretty much every time I go into the bathroom, at least a couple times a day, I like stick my hand in my jar of coconut oil and then I stick it up my vagina. Like I just like go like this. And
do you actually do the swirling movement? Like,
I mean, it may not be like that.
You're all picturing Nina doing that right now.
I take it and then I take it on 2 or 3 of my fingers and I stick it up my vagina and like move around a little. And it is my number one vaginal lubricant. I will say I'm on estradiol patch. So I don't take Vagifem. I don't use an S-string. Maybe later I'll need to. I mean, I'm 52. So now my vagina does not hurt like right now. So that's good. But I do attribute a lot of it to coconut oil. Like I use it obsessively.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
I hope I've thoroughly answered that question.
Well, I actually use Coconut, which without the T, it's a lube. It's coconut oil based. I love them. They have a water base and a oil base. Because if you haven't figured out by now, my lady parts are sensitive. And so
a big vag. It's not that big. I just, squeeze it in. Sorry.
If you could only see the your elbow, there's
my entire arm up there. No, it's like maybe it's 2 fingers. I swear, it's normal sized. Wait, what is this product called, Jackie?
Anyway, it's called Coconut. It's like the word coconut without the T. I think I have a coupon code. This is not to sell it. If you want it, email me or in the chat. I can put the link by the end. But it has oil-based or water-based because let's be honest, also, people may not know with toys, you're supposed to actually use a water-based lube so it doesn't ruin your toys.
Yeah, so, that's true, right? Silicone lubes are not good for, My favorite silicone lube is Uber Lube. And I do use it with my toys, even though you're not supposed to.
Oh, you're a rebel.
I know. I'm not much
rebel.
Reveler. Well, just because, sometimes I use coconut oil with my toys, but I basically use whatever's around.
Yeah.
In the moment.
In a pinch. Yes.
In a pinch.
I know you have more questions. I just want to read some comments too. So Deanna says, feeling non-desirable at my age and with chronic illness, would love support. I think a lot of women are feeling that, whether chronic illness, that certainly adds to it. Doing shit for you, Deanna, I cannot recommend enough. Like saying no to other people and just sometimes like even a half an hour a day, just do something that's for you. And, I'm sure that I have people in here that will comment, Jackie, well, you should do that too. Yes, I should. But I think as a group, we should all commit to 30 minutes a day doing something that is strictly for us. And I think that's a good start. But Nina, what do you think?
As for feeling undesirable, that is a hard one. I mean, and we all relate to it. For me, I have to say it definitely correlates. I am not like an eating disorder person, and I'm not like super skinny. And I never have been. I do find as I've gotten older that when I got rid of those 10 COVID pounds and went back to kind of my normal weight, I'm not like one of these like skinny people. Anyway, when I'm at my best weight, I feel sexier. And I also feel healthier. Some women I know really love like fancy underwear. Like fancy underwear makes them feel sexier. For some women, it's makeup. Actually, we had a thread about this recently. I was kind of surprised. A lot of women said a good hair day is what makes them feel sexier. That is not the case for me. Like I don't really think about my hair. So I think drilling down a little bit on what you need to feel more attractive. And then I think, as Jackie said, spending some time with yourself. Like, I don't know if you masturbate. I don't know if you watch porn. I don't know like what feels sexy for you, but it's hard. I mean, I go through phases now. Like I still want to have sex with my partner, but I don't think about sex in the same way I did 5 years ago. So it's a little harder for me to I play this game with myself in airports where I try and look at men and think would I have sex with him? Would I have sex with him? Would I have sex with him? And lately, it's impossible for me to find someone I'd want to have sex with. It's super depressing.
I don't think I've ever played that game unless it was Bradley Cooper and Idris Elba in the airport. And then maybe the answer is yes.
No, it's a fun game because I think the truth is probably for most of us, just looking at people, particularly as we get older, we're just not as, we're not as attractive probably or objective as we used to be. So you meet men and you're like, ugh, whatever. If you talk to them, if you go on a date with someone, you'd probably find them more interesting and more appealing. So for me, just going on visual is super hard.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I want to add to something you said though, because I think that especially with a chronic illness, I have no idea what kind of weight or not, if that's an issue at all, but one of the things I feel very strongly about is do not wait until you are back in that body that you feel your best in, right? To feel sexy.
You're so right. You're so right.
I definitely have more pounds on that I feel comfortable. And you know what? I'm still fucking sexy. And so maybe it's the underwear. It's crazy that when I wear a matching bra and panty, how far that goes.
Does it? Does that make you feel sexy? That's awesome.
It does.
Yes,
and I'm making an effort because I think for the last 2 years, even my meetings, it was hair, top knot, not a lot of effort.
Someone said matching shoes and socks does it for me. That's hilarious.
But whatever you're into, but I cannot say enough though, that where our bodies are changing all the time. And it's important to feel your best in the body that you have right now. Exercise will always be not just for weight loss, but always be great for your mood, great for your strength, strength training, things like that. Even if it's just low weights, but I do believe in the power of exercise, but I also believe in the power of not waiting until everything's in order so you can then feel desirable.
I think that's a really excellent point. And I'm sorry, I definitely was not suggesting everyone needs to lose weight. And actually there's a Wolfer, a member of the community who I adore, who for the last 5 years has been saying to me, when I lose 50 pounds, I'm going to start dating. And I keep saying to her, that's crazy. Just get out there. But I think we each do have to figure out what's going to make me feel attractive. Wearing matching bra and panties does nothing for me.
To me, it represents making an effort for how I put myself out there.
No, I think it's I'm sure for lots of people, I do really love a really pretty nightgown. That is something that I love, a little kind of lacy nightgown. Oh my God, we have so many questions. Here's another one. Hello, do you have any recommendations for dating someone who has kids and hopefully becoming a step parent? My partner has 4 amazing kids, ages 4 to 14. My God, that's a lot. Who haven't had any contact with their mom for the past 3 years and who I've spent some time with. First of all, I just want to say kudos to you for considering taking that on. That is a lot. I I do have lots of advice about step parenting. Okay, I will say that if these kids are 4 to 14 and they haven't had any contact with their mom for 3 years, on the one hand, that might make things a little easier for you because sometimes competing with the mom or being compared to the mom is really hard. On the other hand, there's going to be trauma there. That's horrible that they haven't been in touch with their mom in 3 years. I hope there's a budget for therapy for everyone. I think step parenting is super, super, super hard. And it's one of the things that people are not that honest about. I think it rarely is the fairy tale version of it. I mean, it's amazing that you seem like you're probably excited about this and want to take it on. And I really applaud you. And I have a stepchild relationship now. I'm not married, but my boyfriend has 3 sons and the youngest is 17. And I really have a nice relationship with his sons, but having had a bunch of step parent experiences, I have approached this one in a very hands-off way. I try not to give advice. I try not to, I feel like in this case, they have a mother. I try and just be like a friend, basically, like a nice person in their life who's interested, but not too hands-on. In your case, ages 4 to 14, and they don't have a mom, you're going to be really hands-on. I would say get a therapist to help you because it's hard. It's just not easy.
And I will add, as someone who had a new parent, a new mother at 4 years old, and who has I adopted my son, my youngest at 1.5 years. Be patient with yourself. Bonds take a while to create. And so I can imagine if you go into this and you become that mother figure, that there are going to be days that you regret it. There are going to be days that it's hard and it might not feel worth it. And I just think bonds happen naturally and bonds take time. And for one person, you can look at somebody else who's doing it and it may seem like, 3 months later, they're, that perfect little family on Instagram. Right. But it takes a long time. And an expert said to me when we were going through the adoption process that bonds happen when a child has a need and you meet that need. And so even when I was changing my child's diaper, I was, feeding them, that's where the bonds happen. So even if for a while you're just going through the motions of the care and being kind and loving and taking time for yourself, just know it's a journey. So don't expect that it's going to be this perfect happily ever after. Because I think it's dangerous. The messages sometimes that we get, it just all falls into place. So just wanted to add that.
I really love that bonds happen when you satisfy a need. That's like really interesting. Sorry about my dog.
The dog agrees.
But I will also say that you're entering into another culture, right? Like kids in a family, they have their own culture. And so I think often as a stepmom, inevitably you're going to have moments of alienation. And I agree with Jackie. It takes a long time and you should be patient with yourself and try and step back when you're in moments of doubt instead of don't always lean in. Because I think sometimes people you need to protect your boundaries a little. It takes time and you need to be patient on both sides. So good luck to you.
Yeah. Oh, Kim added, just because you're the primary woman doesn't mean you have to step in as mom. Being loving, patient, kind, showing healthy communication, coping, not just to kids, but to yourself.
Yeah, thank you.
Agree.
That's completely right. I completely agree. All right, let's look for some other questions in here.
So how do I get interested in making money again? When I stopped working in design for books and didn't get into the web, but I love taking classes. I don't have to earn money after my father died and others are taking care of my expenses on the house. I will force myself to make art. The only thing I'm really good at, I think, if I do it, but I need to deal with clutter. I don't feel sexy. There's so much here and I don't have a partner, but I'm enjoying this talk. But when it comes to getting back into making money, right, Nina, you talked about the fact that you're good at this. I think that there are a lot of things that we do that can be revenue generating activities, but what would you say?
I wouldn't say I'm necessarily good at making money. I'm good at managing money. Okay. I would say it's an interesting question. How do I get interested in making money again? It's very satisfying, right, to earn your own money and to be able to save money and to provide for your kids. I don't know if this particular person has anyone she's providing for. It sounds like you're in a lucky situation that your expenses are taken care of. I mean, honestly, if you're in a situation like that, I would say lean into whatever most interests you and see where it goes. Like I am now making a salary for the first time in years working at Revel. I followed my passion. I know it sounds corny, but I really created this group and did what really interested me. I mean, I was lucky I could afford to, like you, but I'm now making a real salary. Like I'm providing health insurance for my kids. I'm really proud of myself. So I would say, again, and we're going to have recurring themes here, try to not be afraid, identify what's keeping you from trying to earn money and lean in, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And also if you have a background in design, there are probably a local community college, online courses. You could be moving into the online space, the web, designing other things. Or if you don't want to do that, you could still design physical materials, things like that. If you're already in that field.
And you could also learn new skills. Like I have to say, I've learned so many things in the last few years that I never in a million years thought I would learn. Like I know how to use MailChimp and I'm getting better at metrics. And it's really good for the aging brain. Like I'm really pleased with myself that I'm pushing myself. Right. I want to go back to the stepchild subject for one more time though, because another question said, think about if his kids are in their early 20s and more independent. Yes, that's a million times easier. A million times easier. I think stepkids, once they're out of the house, can be, I mean, it's much easier, I think, to have it be a real pleasure because they're also old enough that they're not constantly comparing you to their mother. I just think there's more help. Someone says she needs help designing her kitchen. I'm not sure we can help with that. That's the last question here.
That's awesome. I'm just looking at some other stuff. Reunited with college girlfriends. She's retiring and wants to buy a house together and split it to live in our own space. I know you've been talking about this lately. Question. Scary buying a property together. What's the question? Are you wondering if you should?
Buying property together at this age is kind of scary. I mean, I definitely think you should have a prenup. You know, you should have an agreement for what happens if you break up. And often when you're buying property together with someone, what I did with my last marriage, so I keep referring to all my marriages. I haven't been married 20 times. I had a green card marriage when I was very young, like 18. And then I was married to the father of my kids for 16 years. And then I had a third marriage for 3 or 4 years to this sexy alcoholic that went very bad very quickly. But in that marriage, because I was in my 40s, he was in his 50s, we had a very clear prenup that said that if he moved into my house, we didn't buy something together, but it said like, if I die, it was very clear. It was like, if I die before we've been together for 5 years, he had to just move out and the property would go straight to my kids. If we'd been together more than 5 years, he could stay in the property until he died. So you have to like really think it through to the nth degree. Wow. So if you buy something together, you have to think through who's going to buy it out from the other? Are you going to have a right for each person to buy it out from the other? Or are you going to agree that if you break up, you just sell it? You have to really figure that out, which is one of the reasons you might not want to do it. And someone in the chat says co-housing Google search, lots of good tips. There's actually a site also called Silver Nest. It sounds like when you say girlfriend, college girlfriend, I'm assuming you mean it's a romantic situation.
And I assumed a friend and who knows?
Who knows? We're not sure. I will say I did a great interview last week with a company called silvernest.com, which is a co-housing. It's kind of like Golden Girls. It's a site dedicated to help people live together. And they do have a lot of great resources and they have leases and they tell you what to think through. So that might be useful.
Yeah. And speaking of Golden Girls, Nina and I recently did an episode together of the Grown Ass Woman's Guide. And we talked about Revel and all of this. And we had a little debate. Who would you rather be friends with, right? The Golden Girls
or the Sex and the City girls?
Sex and the City. So you have to put that in the chat.
Oh yeah. Tell us what you like better, because I had actually I've watched Golden Girls, but not much. So now it's on my to-do list. I still haven't done it since that conversation. And I love Sex and the City. I'm an unabashed, just absolutely love it. I mean,
right.
I know the problems, but anyway, so yeah, we'd love to hear your opinions on that too.
I asked in in the Grown Ass Women's group, and they were all Golden Girls. Most of them were Golden Girls.
One question we have is, what's your best advice for a 60-year-old starting a business? That's a good question.
That's well, what is the business?
We don't know. It's a question from Maria. I don't know if she wants to give us a little more information.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I mean, my number one thing would be networking. Really reaching out to everyone who you think might be able to help you, both to market it, to promote it, to give you design advice, to give you feedback on the way you're presenting it. A recurring theme with me, kind of curiosity and stepping outside your boundaries, like make sure you're really reaching out because it's hard to do those things alone.
Agree. This is actually the episode that I dropped at midnight last night, is all about starting a business like in today's climate. And so it's so fresh in my mind. But what is the product? It needs to be something that people need and want, especially want. And so, a few years ago, it'd be like, oh, I'm just going to try this thing. I'm going to start this business. And we've seen that things have really shifted over the past couple of years. And so is it a brick and mortar business? Is it something that's going to require, people come in and all of that? And so I think it's really important to create something that truly people want and not just create a business because it's what you want. And that sounds really unsexy and not fun, but it should be something that you want, of course, but definitely that other people want if you want this to be a long-term success.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. Proving that there's a need for what you're coming up with. Kim says something great in the chat. She says it's really important to be proud of your business, being comfortable bragging, which I think is a really good point. And it also kind of speaks to, again, doing something you really, really believe in, because starting a business is super hard. So you have to feel, you have to kind of feel it in your bones.
I
Christine
agree.
says, I don't want to live with anybody, LOL. And Christine, I hear ya. We had a conversation about the Silverness people when I interviewed them, and there was a thread in our Facebook group, the Wolfer Annex, and people were saying, someone said, oh, I wouldn't do it to save money. I would do it because it was fun, do like a Golden Girl situation. And I was thinking, no, I really like living alone at this point in my life. But
yeah. I like the idea of going somewhere and having that community and having that, but not necessarily all the time.
It's like the tiny house retirement idea for women over, 60. You know how women talk about this all the time, like, should we buy an island? And I don't know. Sometimes I think that would be fun. And sometimes I think it would be too much.
Yeah. Yeah. I want it when I want it, and I don't want it when I don't want it. So we've got just a couple of minutes left. So get your final questions in. There's so many comments.
Yeah.
You ladies are amazing. This has been so much fun.
I know, it's really fun, and we'll get better at this and more organized, but I'm looking through the chat too. Yeah. Coconut, I have to look up Vaginu.
Oh yeah.
What's Vaginu? Is water-based. Someone said, I don't know. We'll have to check it out. Oh, here's one. 53-year-old mother of a special needs 18-year-old who's been in residential care for the past year. I'm sorry, that's a lot to take on. My husband got cancer when our son was 2 weeks old and now has type 2 diabetes. I've spent the last 18 years taking care of our son and became totally isolated with no friends. I tried, but son was reactive. Now that he's institutionalized, I don't know if I'm expected to go out and work despite PTSD and other stuff, retire, or what to do with my life. I've had surgeries for BRCA2 mutation and have Hashimoto's, so has an immune disease. So you have a lot on your hands, and I want you to take care of yourself. I would hope that now that your son is getting the kind of care that he really needs, and you're only 53 years old, you're young, there's really time for you to explore what interests you and find some friends. I would really recommend, this is to Betsy, that you, I hope you use Revel and platforms like Revel to reach out and pursue your interests and find people who share them. I don't know if you like to read, if you want to join a book club, if you like to hike and you want to create a hiking group, if you want to explore watercolor. I mean, all these things sound cliche, but it definitely sounds like you have spent 20 years doing intense caretaking, and it must be very hard to figure out how to create new boundaries and some time for yourself.
Absolutely. And there's one thing that really stood out to me in that question or comment is the word expect. That other people expect. Like, let that go. What you have already accomplished with your child and with your life is just so much more work than people can even imagine. That what Nina said, like being nice to you and forget what anyone expects. In fact, I hesitate when it comes to journaling, and every time I do it, I'm like, damn it, it was so good. But like journaling, what do you expect? Maybe even writing that, like, what do I expect from me today? And write those things. Forget about everybody else's expectations and do something that feels good for you.
That's a great prompt. We should all do that. Write down what do I expect for myself today. I love that. I think to Jackie's point, Betsy, maybe you just need to try and not worry so much about what other people think and try and figure out what you want. I think that's the beauty of being our age. And also there's some actual like science behind that too, as Sandra Singh Low says in her book. Sandra Singh Low, I'll write in the chat, wrote a fantastic book called The Mad Woman in the Volvo. Sandra Singh Low, she has a lot of great pieces for The Atlantic. And in her book about menopause called The Mad Woman in the Volvo, she talks about how as our estrogen decreases, we become less willing and inclined to caretake. Like we just lose the caretaking gene essentially. And I've really found that, now that I live alone for the first time in my entire life, and I just take care of my poodle. And I take care of my kids. I deal with them all day long, but they're not living under my roof. And I feel so liberated by not being in a daily caretaking role. And so I think women, as we get older, no, you're not an asshole. Someone in the chat said, oh God, I thought I was just an asshole. You're not an asshole. You don't need estrogen anymore. And it was the estrogen that was making you take care of everyone all the time. It's time for you to take care of yourself. I had a funny moment the other day where I was like, I almost feel like I'm 12 years old again. There's a funny, like, I don't have to take care of anyone. I'm on my own. There is a way in which menopause does take you back to that time before you had your period in a certain way. I know that sounds weird, but there's a kind of liberating, like, I'm just me now again.
Right. It's so great because, especially if you have the time, especially if you have the resources that you can try things. I just go back to that. Like, what do you want? And you don't, one of the things I think we expect from ourselves is, what do I want for the rest of my life? Right. We were raised in that time where you figure out what your career is, you figure out what the trajectory is of your life, and then you follow that. We are no longer in that. This day and age, what do you want today? What do you want in this chapter? What do you want, for the next few months or a few years? It's so much more exciting, and there's so much opportunity that didn't even exist when we first, 20 years ago. So, I think getting to know ourselves every day.
So true. It's so true.
Yeah.
That is a good note to end on. We have to end. But we're going to do this once a month. We will create a bunch more events. We're also going to do, I don't know if any of you saw it, or some of you obviously saw it, but we're going to post a link in all Revelers every month that says, post your anonymous questions for grown-ass guidance, which is what we're calling it. And so feel free to post questions. Feel free to join us. This was really fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And thank you, Nina. I'm excited to do it next month.
Thank you, Jen. Me too.
Yeah. Take care, everyone.
All right. Mwah. Bye. Talk to you guys later.
This has been the Grown-Ass Woman's Guide. I'm your host, Jackie MacDougall. Remember to hit that favorite or follow button on your favorite podcast app and subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can watch the video version of each episode. Please share the show with a friend. And if you like the Grown-Ass Woman's Guide, leave a comment, rating, or review. If you don't like it, well, you just listened a really long time for someone who doesn't like it. So thanks. Until next time, you are a grown-ass woman. Act accordingly. Spring has sprung, and with the change of seasons, sometimes comes an increase in vitality. If you're feeling in the mood for a little more personal time, may I suggest Coconut. Coconut is all about providing clean and natural ingredients when you're enjoying your most intimate moments, with or without a partner. Naturally safe products developed by people who are obsessed with quality. Get 15% off with promo code GROWNASS at grownasswoman.guide/Coconut. That's 15% off with promo code GROWNASS at grownasswoman.guide/Coconut.